The Chinese middle class is the most reactive to changes in society and serves as a barometer for assessing the current Chinese economy. In 2024, China's middle class faced a severe crisis of reverting to poverty, confirming that the CCP's macroeconomic policies have entered an irreversible downturn.
I'm stopping mortgage payments. I don't want my property worth millions anymore. Let the bank take it. With the recent drop in housing prices in Shanghai, I'm a victim. My total assets have dropped by 4 million yuan and they are still falling. I've decided to stop repaying the loan. I'm paying tens of thousands each month and I can only afford to buy clothes on sale. I also have some disputes with friends who are going to sue me. The worst outcome for me could be becoming a discredited person, banned from flying or taking high-speed trains. Well, if that's what it takes, then so be it. My baby keeps on calling me mum every day and I feel so guilty and sad. I can't even keep our home. I don't deserve to be your mum. The bank recently sent me a letter demanding early repayment. They are really anxious. But I'm not. I'm already on the rooftop. What's there to worry about? I'm not in a hurry.
This man's property has lost 8 million in 2 years, and he described his life over these 2 years as too tragic. Today I heard something that made me feel absolutely miserable. An agent asked me if I wanted to sell my house for 22 million yuan. I bought this house for 30 million yuan 3 years ago. After working for 2 years, I didn't expect the house to lose 7 or 8 million so quickly. People like me who have a bit of money have seen such significant shrinkage in assets, not to mention the average people whose most assets are also tied up in their homes. Now, after losing this much value in my assets, even buying a car has to be a cheaper one. No point in buying expensive ones because they'll depreciate too. Even my house, located in the very heart of Beijing, has lost value. And many others who might have bought in the suburbs have likely seen even bigger losses. After asset depreciation, loans don't shrink. In that case, my spending has to be downgraded. In fact, as a concept imported from abroad, middle class is not clearly defined domestically. Due to different environmental conditions, people have varied understandings of this term. However, there is a consensus that owning 1 or 2 more properties in first and second tier cities, along with a decent income, likely qualifies one as middle class. Unlike in Western countries, Chinese middle class families tend to prefer investing in real estate. During periods of rising housing prices, they have capitalized on their unique insights and forward thinking to amass wealth. Many also engage in property trading once they have accumulated a certain amount of capital. During this trend, upgrading in housing has become a mainstream choice. At that time, real estate was seen as a symbol of wealth and a tool for preserving and increasing value. However, with a changing real estate market, some middle-class families have come to realize that simply holding properties does not guarantee wealth preservation. The properties they once purchased at high prices could even bring greater risks to their lives. One man was once part of this trend. 5 years ago, when Li Yishang bought his property, he never thought he would one day take the path of reverse trading. At that time, he was advancing in his career, and his stable income gave him confidence and ushered him into the middle class. At the age of 30, after consulting with his family, he purchased a new home in Beijing's 4th ring costing 7.5 million yuan. For Li, a technical supervisor at a foreign company, the monthly mortgage of over 20,000 yuan was affordable. He has his own benchmarks. He said, as long as the quality of life doesn't decline significantly, this house is a positive asset. What it might sell for in the future isn't something those of us buying homes for living in needs to worry about. In the first 2 years after buying the house, he and his wife lived a relatively decent life. They planned an international trip each year and occasionally shopped in luxury stores. When dining out, price was rarely a major consideration. Every now and then, they drove to the suburbs for camping trips. When chatting with peers, their conversations often touched on the future, with good things will continue as a common hope. However, reality caught up with their plans. Affected by the pandemic, Li's job experienced several fluctuations, starting with a salary cut. As his company's performance deteriorated, Li could only watch powerlessly as a balance in his salary account dwindled each month. Then came company reorganizations and layoffs. As a technical backbone, he was fortunate to escape being laid off. It was during this period of reduced income that he entertained the idea of trading houses. In discussions with various agents, he learned that in the past, middle-class home trading was mostly aimed at improving living conditions. But in recent years, more middle-class families have been considering trading down to obtain a lump sum of flexible cash to guard against potential risks. The direct catalyst for Li's reverse trading was actually the ultimate news of unemployment. He remembers it clearly. It was a weekend, and he hadn't even gotten out of bed when his boss called to tell him that the company had been acquired. He was given two choices, either process a visa to work at the headquarters in the United States or accept compensation and wait for the layoff. Considering his family, Li chose the latter, which also pushed forward his decision to trade houses. Mid-2023, Li moved from a 114 square meter house to a new 73 square meter one. Though the living space was reduced, he gained over 2 million yuan in cash. He believes that this was the best plan he could devise at the stage to maintain his standard of living. He said, "After the house trade, my anxiety greatly diminished. The most tangible feeling was having more money at hand, putting control of my life back in my own hands." Now having accepted the corporate layoff, Li has been unemployed for nearly 6 months. He expressed a desire to take a break and explore other possibilities in his career. Before, he only thought about it but dared not act on it because owning a house was an invisible pressure constantly pushing him forward. Now, although it appears he has downgraded his consumption, he enjoys more freedom. While the downgrade in housing consumption has brought certain benefits to many middle-class individuals, it's undeniable that the drop in house prices, like a scythe, has reaped many middle-class assets. The collapse of the real estate sector is gradually eroding the middle class's confidence in the government. About 3 years ago, the Chinese government's action to deleverage the real estate sector has evolved into a crisis lasting several years, pushing dozens of developers to the brink of bankruptcy and impacting one of the main engines of China's economic growth. Blake Xu is also among the vast army of Chinese middle-class homebuyers. 3 years ago, everything in his life was going smoothly. At that time, this 33-year-old entrepreneur and his family has seized the booming tide of China's real estate market to acquire multiple properties. His wife was pregnant with their first child at the time. He had just sold a residence and invested almost half the proceeds into the Chinese stock market. But since then, the Chinese real estate market has entered a prolonged slump. The benchmark CSI 300 index has lost a third of its value, and the Chinese economy has become increasingly fragile, with consumer confidence at a low, private sector investment weak, and youth unemployment rates remaining high. Xu has almost completely withdrawn his funds from the Chinese stock market, and he plans to leave China next. For the new generation of Chinese middle class, they have always taken China's economic prosperity for granted during most of their lives. But now the downturn in real estate, the slump in the stock market, and a widespread economic recession have forced them to confront a tricky question. Has China's period of prosperity come to an absolute end? To secure the interest and survive this turbulent period, not just ordinary people, but the middle class as well, are reducing expenditures, increasing savings, and staying away from high-risk investments. According to data from the central bank, by February, domestic household savings reached $19.8 trillion, a record high, with consumer confidence near the lowest in decades. For the Chinese government, the increasing anxiety among urban residents and white-collar workers about the economy might be its biggest issue. In the minds of many Chinese, the legitimacy of the Chinese government has always come from its good reputation in economic management. The government's reputation has also positively contributed to economic development and consolidation, but clearly all this is collapsing along with the economic downturn. Xu mentioned, "I don't know where the future lies, but when my child gets older, we plan to send him abroad, and perhaps we will go too." To achieve this goal, Xu sold another property, a process he found extremely painful, but he does not regret it. He believes that having this money at hand allows him to flexibly deal with various situations. If things get worse, he can leave the country immediately with the money. Xu also said, "Emotionally, I wish this country well, but frankly, if this leadership team remains in place, I feel I must prepare an exit strategy because with them in power, the prospects for China are truly worrisome." Chen, a standard middle-class individual from Shenzhen, cites the Chinese stock market as a significant reason for the shrinkage of his assets. Chen, who grew up in the affluent coastal city of Shenzhen, pursued a master's degree in the UK. In 2017, he returned to China to work in finance and, like many Chinese, decided to invest in stocks. He also bought bonds and invested in some insurance products. But last year, he made a decision, no more investing in Chinese stocks. Chen, a professional who once managed funds for an insurance company, understands investment better than most. He also clearly realizes that continuing to invest in China no longer seems like a wise choice. Because by the end of 2023, the CSI 300 index had been falling for 3 consecutive years, and worse, stock markets in the UK, Japan, and other places had soared. This was supposed to be China's century, but China's economy and stock market are underperforming compared to other countries. Chen said, getting poorer is one thing, but getting poorer while others get richer is another. Thus, he has shifted most of his investments to buying American stocks and funds. Currently, China has over 220 million retail investors, meaning the stock market's trends have a huge psychological impact on the nation. These small investors, once dubbed gamblers, have reduced their investments after years of downturn, gradually turning to safer assets like money market funds. In the video, the woman who used her parents' money intended for buying a house to speculate in stocks ended up losing over 100,000 yuan. Now, with a down payment due tomorrow, she can't fill the gap and is in tears over the situation.
The money my parents gave me to buy a house, I used it to buy this stock. My best friend told me this stock was a sure win and that she had inside information, so I put all the money into it. I thought I could withdraw it in a few days, earning whatever I could each day, but then I lost over 100,000 yuan, and now I need to make a down payment. My mum would kill me if she finds out. What should I do?
In this video, the man is part of the middle class that speculates in the stock market, having traded for 4 years and eventually becoming numb to his losses, totaling 1.46 million yuan. In my 4th year of trading stocks, I lost over 1.4 million yuan. I have no more money to cover the losses, and I know I probably can't recover. Yesterday, my girlfriend said she wanted to buy a bottle of face cream that costs over 500 yuan, and I blurted out, "That's too expensive." Looking back, I think about how much money I lose in the stock market every day. I could buy countless bottles of cream. I've completely forgotten about my life. My mind is filled only with stocks, and I can't get excited about anything else. So why did I enter the stock market in the first place? Wasn't it just to make some money to live a better life? But now all I have is anxiety and regret. Last year, the so-called middle-class wealth zeroing trifecta became popular on the Chinese internet, comprising nearly 10 million mortgage debt, a non-working spouse, and children attending international schools. This year, the trifecta was upgraded by the middle class to the impoverished quintet, which includes impulsive investment in starting businesses, liquidating assets to sell homes, elite education for children, providing guarantees for others, and blind financial investments. I think having a second or third child is the most damaging aspect. Take myself as an example. The quality of life with one child versus two is completely different. You can't shortchange one child, so you have to level the playing field for both. Once you've leveled it, if you want to maintain the standard of raising one child, then you're just waiting to go bankrupt. We all want to give our children the best education, but the high tuition fees at international schools are really not something a middle-class family can afford. They are a prerequisite for bankruptcy. Moreover, the return on investment in education is invisible and uncertain. And the most crucial point is that there's no profit in education. Last night, my wife and I calculated the cost for our 2 children from kindergarten to college graduation at an international school. It's at least 10 million yuan, and that number really shocked me. Another netizen expressed that in these turbulent times, parents of the middle class who are obsessed with education are the most anxious, as their money is depleted, but the children still need to be supported. This netizen mentioned that in the past 2 years, many of his friends have withdrawn from the international school circuit, some due to company closures, others due to failed investments. One of his friends has 2 children in international schools, funded primarily through investment returns. However, after various financial debacles, not only were there no returns, but even the principal was lost, forcing the 2 children to return to public schools. True wealthy individuals don't suffer from anxiety over education because they have sufficient assets as a moat. But the middle class cannot cope. They are like paper boats, owning houses and cars but merely converting labor into wealth. Moreover, leaving a few million for the children is not enough and is prone to financial busts. Multi-million properties cannot withstand inflation, and a round of economic cycles can easily reduce them to poverty overnight. On this path of intense competition, it is not the adults who suffer the most, but the children. Having to join the adult world of cutthroat competition at such a young age is indeed tragic. Recently, a screenshot of a severely depressed child went viral on Chinese social media, evoking much sympathy. The child in the screenshot is only 13 years old, often unable to sleep, with frequent emotional breakdowns and headaches. Her mother took her to several hospitals, and the diagnosis was severe depression. Her mother said the child acted abnormally at home, thinking and reacting slower than before, with poor memory, unwilling to go out, and sometimes not wanting to move. She knew her child might be ill, but she didn't expect it to be severe depression. In the comments below the screenshot, many parents shared that although children's living conditions have improved, they are very tired every day. Many children have been so overwhelmed by schoolwork that they can't finish the homework until after 11 p.m. The girl's mother in the screenshot said, "My daughter always says she's exhausted at school, feeling physically and mentally drained, even losing the desire to study." The mother reflected on her daughter's past decade of experiences, feeling that the child was indeed exhausted. From 9 years compulsory education to 3 years of preparation for the middle school exams, followed by preparation for the university entrance exams, the child's life has been non-stop studying. She seemed like a machine, continuously moving forward in a linked sequence, afraid of falling behind others. Whether it's the decline of the middle class or the severe competition in education, both are influenced by the economic situation. Now with the overall growth of the Chinese economy diminishing, new opportunities are becoming increasingly scarce, hence the intensified competition. Essentially, competition arises because a cake of benefits is only so big during a certain period, but the number of people wanting a piece of the cake has increased. With the cake being only so large, to ensure there's enough to go around, either the threshold for getting a piece of the cake is raised, or each person receives a smaller share. After raising the threshold, everyone in society has to work harder to receive the same or less benefits than before. Over the past 2 to 3 decades of rapid economic growth in China, many people harbored illusions. Everyone thought they found good jobs because they had good academic records, attended good universities, and secured good jobs. Many middle-class individuals believe that high education and hard work enable them to leap socioeconomic classes. So now, when they can't find good positions, everyone thinks their education isn't high enough and frantically competes over academic qualifications. Many didn't realize that good job opportunities and positions are not provided by education, but are brought about by economic growth. In the current economic downturn, even the best educated might face unemployment. The disappearance of the middle class is even more understandable. The benefits are finite, and someone will always be pushed out. As the cake of benefits continuously decreases, more and more people are pushed out, leading to the decline of the middle class.